Spirit of Matter, and this is an episode of Venus Wisdom on a Venus Day. And um, right now we're having Venus Day here with Jupiter hour. So the ascendant is on 2 degrees Leo, which is ruled by the Sun, which is already in 28 degrees Taurus, where the new moon will be taking place in just a couple of hours. And so the moon, of course, is in Taurus, sextiling Mars. Mars is on the anaretic degree of Cancer, so the 29th degree. Jupiter itself is squaring Pluto, squaring Mars, in that famous T square, which is going to close circuits with Libra. And right now the IC is around Spica, supplying to Spica. So this is the star situation for today, and I would like to do my Venus wisdom on a Venus day with this webpage by Orphic Astrology. And the reason I'm beginning here is Orphic Astrology just did a post on Algol, which is available on her Instagram. And of course, you have all these services, but one of the things that I really like about this page, other than the fascinating readings, is wait. We're looking for astrology fixed star. So she has a very in-depth fixed star introduction that is just a lovely resource. And I won't spoil it. Like, go to her Instagram and check her post on Algol. The new moon will be taking place, and this is something that I know the new moon will conjunct Algol, but Orphic did so much as to look if Algol is on the minima, and she is on the minima during the new moon. What is the minima of Algol? So, first of all, what is Algol? For those who are new here, Algol is a fixed star that is both sidereally and tropically in Taurus, and she is it's basically two stars that eclipse each other every once in a while. So the minima point is when the eclipse happens, which of course is the energy of eclipses, which is considered very disruptive. Traditionally, you're not supposed to, unless you're very, very trained and want to do something very, very specifically disruptive and able to deal with unpredictable results, then it's not very likely that you desire to do any magical work during eclipses. Definitely not the beginner phase. Um, and, uh, and that is true to any eclipse. So in this case, when Algol eclipses itself, that is the minima point, it's considered a bad omen. Okay, it is the time where things can go disrupt. And Algol itself is basically called Rosh Hasatan, which is the head of Satan, but more originally it is the myth of Medusa, Gorgon, and the story for Medusa Gorgon was that she was falsely accused in having an affair while it was not her consent, and as she spoke up, she dared to speak, she was beheaded. So basically the energy of Algol, while on a mundane level, and this is true to a lot of magical occurrences, okay, on a mundane level, any transit to do with Algol, especially on the minima, is highly disruptive, right? It's talk about beheading of people who speak up about sexual violence. It's talk like all these really not nice things, right? That being said, from a magical point of view, Algol is the most protective talisman there is, because you think about the soul of a being that has went through being silenced for speaking up about abuse. Okay, and the story for Medusa is that her head turned into snakes, and whoever looked at her face, okay, her head was basically used as a talisman And whoever looked at her face became like a stone from the rage that she contained. Okay? So this is what I believe it was Alan Bass that was quoted saying, "This is the divine rage." And people say the divine rage of the feminine. Well, not only women go through this, so it's a divine rage. I don't think only women can turn to alcohol for protection. I think it's relevant, and it is used magically to protect from the malefic things as well as psychic attacks. Again, what is psychic attacks? It's basically what people call psychotic seizures in mundane medicine, um, except that there is a deeper understanding of when a person is going through certain trauma, whether psychological or physical. There is there can be. I'm not saying that necessarily is, yeah. It doesn't mean that you're not telling the truth if you're not going through dissociation. That's not where I'm taking this. But it is possible that the person deals with dissociation from the body, which exposes their experience to have more data from the worlds that are not usually being practiced and seen. So think about when people do many workshops and meditations and classes to do astral projection, to have shared dreams, to learn energetic penetration in more tantric courses. Then the person that dealt with certain trauma can have non-volitional, non-dual experiences. Okay, when the somatic experience is reduced or altered, but that which is not three-dimensional is felt on the body. And that is what conventional medicine calls psychosis. The conventional way for treating that actually works is an approach called open dialogue. And by what works in open dialogue, you can understand more about the phenomena. And that is the things that Algol protects from. Okay, Algol supports speaking up. And open dialogue basically means that it's practiced in Finland, and Finland was horrid in treating people. It was castrating people who had dealt with mental crisis and so on and so forth. And then I don't know exactly what happened, but they decided to try something different. And you know that Finland has already housing system that supports people more so than other countries. For sure, it is not perfect, and for sure, there's ideation from people abroad. But they decided to try to talk to the people about those psychotic content and actually begin to work with it and try to see, first of all, to validate, to acknowledge, to listen, then to support people in their own community. Okay, so not taking them to hospitals, not isolating them, not forcing drugs on them, but actually speaking and listening. And the people literally began to heal from psychosis with no pills. And that teaches us all a story about the spirit and matter and medication and so on and so forth. And that is an approach that people try to transfer. They're trying to transfer it into Israel, and it's a good thing. Although you can't really do open dialogue without the context of people having a place to stay, people having food to eat, and so on and so forth. Yes, listening is super important, but if a person don't know where they will sleep tonight and so on and so forth, then you can't really do that. So it takes more than just open dialogue practitioners and flying social workers to Finland instead of for like the people who actually need the help, as happens. And so it teaches us the story of the importance of validation, listening, being present, and something that is considered miraculous healing is actually very simple. A person who seems to have psychosis deals with something very, 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 very basic. Okay, something happened, some violence happened in the family, in the kindergarten, with doctors, with this, with that, in society. I don't know. Something happened because a child that goes through this or a person that goes through this, they cannot speak about what happened, right? Not only because it is very shocking, which can also be the case, but also it's not like they can say, well, I went to see this doctor when my parents weren't there, then this doctor did so and so. And then immediately the child is being portrayed as abnormal, lying, telling stories, telling this, telling that, so they can no longer speak about the experience. That creates ailment in the body that dissociate the person from the body. Okay, contributes to that, and then they can start speaking, and very much like filmmaking. We can make historical films about what happened in 1939 and how people were slowly being not allowed to work in their own profession, or there were segregation of going to businesses or opening a business, and then you couldn't walk here and you couldn't walk there, and then came the train. And it didn't matter if you were, gay or disabled, or somebody said that you have some Jewish in the bloodline, God forbid. But that was the situation. But you can make a historical, but you have to speak in a story that is coming from another place in time, so that you can tell a certain story. Okay. And that is what happens with people who have supposedly psychosis. They experience things that seem from another place and time. Now, of course, there can also be what we call psychic attack, where it's intentional. Here, somebody does something the way you do energetic penetration in tantra courses, or astral projection in relevant courses, or shared dreams, and try to use these the liminal spaces actually not in favor of the person, but to the other way around. And that is also something that can happen. Algol protects people from these experiences. Okay, so it can help diminishing, it can help protecting as you speak up, it can help facilitates returning to the body, it can help in attacking whoever thinks to harm you without that being specific, which is very important. I talk about non-specificity as we do protection and return to sender, which is counterintuitive, but you can watch this episode, it's another episode. And so magically, alcohol is very important protection that people use, especially people like me that speak about these things, right? And so, on a mundane level, alcohol can also be associated with the type of events that lead to those type of experiences. That's why you magically use it as an antidote, because the being of alcohol is already wise around these things, and she can already connect, okay, the those realms that people in their day-to-day life, they spend mostly in their physical body or on the cell phones, and not battling spirits and discerning who is good, who is not, who is for me, who is not for me, who is good for me, who is not nourishing for me. Most people don't do that in their daily lives. So alcohol is useful for the people who are in a situation where they do. And back to the new moon. So I've been hearing about this auspicious new moon in Taurus, and I'm like, there's a T-square in the sky. It's already there. The point of the T-square is Jupiter ruled by Venus. The resolution of a T-square, which is the exact opposite sign, is 0 degrees Scorpio. Okay, which happens to be my Pluto, but it's ruled by Mars. Mars is on the 29 degrees of Cancer, opposing Pluto and squaring Jupiter. So it's a recursive loop of something that is tension energy. Mm-hmm. Wow. Anyway, that is what it is. That is a recursive loop of tense energy, and that can be rage that you cannot seem to exert. It can be certain situations. I was driving, Tauruses in my third house, and yesterday and today I was taking the bus, and even drivers that I know, okay, that I know them, that I see them every other day, were very tense. Were very tense and very edgy, and would get easily angry, even at women and children. And this is not their usual type. They were not being like, offensive to the point like, but they were very edgy. Okay, starting fights over with people or being impatient and so on and so forth. Kind of like even had to assert my boundaries in front of one of them. That was like kind of like trying to take it out on me, and I was like, no, not in a way that is a sexual boundary violation, but definitely like that's a no. Like you won't. I had to assert my space, and so people can have that bubbling anger that they don't really have a let out for, and that can be very disruptive. Bless you, because they do look for this outlet. And so that can be experienced as tremendous helplessness. This is something that's already going on, regardless of the new moon. The new moon is between Algol and Sedna. Okay, and I have a video about this new moon. It's between Algol and Sedna. So what do we have to mitigate the T square? It's this new moon between Algol and Sedna. That unless you work with them magically, and Sedna, I haven't seen people who work with her magically. I have my attempts, but I really like, if I would have a teaching for that, it would probably be a pioneering teaching because I don't know people who work with Sedna. Perhaps Caitlin is hiding something in her opus and regarding to that, and I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if she is, but other than that, I haven't seen people who turn to Sedna for magical purposes. Maybe I've read some things, but not like rituals or petitions or anything of the traditional thing that we know. And so, when I look to, there's this tense T square, and what sextile Mars and trines Pluto is the new moon that is between Algol and Sedna. I was already kind of concerned. And then I read Orphic Astrology's post about Algol being in the Minima, and that was like, okay, you know, it is not. Well, people say it's the first formation after an eclipse. It is not. It triggers the eclipse point of the eclipse. It was an Algol, and this I think Catherine Astrology, Catherine Urban, she mentioned that that was in November 2022. Okay, we had an eclipse on Algol, and this new moon is the beginning of something. So this new moon goes over this point, in between Algol and Sedna, while there is a T square in the sky, which resolution is a part of the T square. Okay, because usually what happens, you have a T square, so you go to the opposite sign from the T, and I want to show you the T square so you understand what I'm talking about. And you can see this Jupiter, Mars, Pluto. Okay, so you have this red triangle, which is hard aspect. Okay, red triangle with 90 degrees here. So the resolution is usually we go to the top of to this point in the triangle, and then we mirror it to the other side of the zodiac. And in the usual T square, we look for what is the ruler or what is in there, and this is where we find the resolution, our balancing point, our anchoring point. Well, here we have Cato, okay, which is an eclipse point, and B, it's ruled by Mars, which is a part of the T square. So it's a recursive loop, supposedly mitigated by two of the most revered, the fixed star and the asteroid is the most revered, that is Sedna. And the Sedna story is actually a daughter that has been sold by her father. And many, like, unhappy, images that I'll save you. You can look for the gore in other, like, sites if you're into it. But the point is, the Sedna became the queen of the underworld, and then she rules the creatures of the sea. And she's an Inuit goddess that people pray to when they fish for, like, seals or and eat creatures of the sea, and kind of pray for her permission to do so because she governs them. So you can understand just by this very simplistic description that Sedna as well is quite a revered being. She went through quite intense experience, and she is very much related to those experiences that have to do with betrayal from someone intimate, from someone you love, or from a dear friend. That is a very, very harsh experience that kind of make you like the king or the queen of the underworld. Okay, so and Sedna was on Algol during the break of COVID. Just to get that is what it created on a mundane level. Now this new moon, this supposedly auspicious new beginning, is between Algol. It's 26 degrees is Algol, 28 degrees is the new moon, and 29 degrees is Sedna. Okay, so yes, we are after the eclipses supposedly, but this new moon does trigger the November eclipse, and it opens up a new period while Algol is in its minima, and and that is, and I think Orphic astrology for that. This is not an auspicious omen, mundanely, for humanity. Okay, definitely turning to Algol, working with Algol, petitioning Algol, working with Sedna, working with Venus and Algol, Venus and Sedna. Those things can be um, perhaps useful, uh, but then it's not a prescription. It's something that I still need to learn in myself. So I cannot tell you, oh, you know, this is what I did. This worked for me. I don't know. Okay, so um, that is that is pretty much the essence of kind of what I wanted to share. A lot of people will be, well, can we go back to manifesting? I think in general, to ask what you desire is not a bad thing. To have a ritual around it involving the planetary rulers of that, I would not recommend at this time. Again, if something is in the books, it's in the books. People who were born in between eclipses, people who have Algol like figures. Recently, there was a solar return for someone who I had extreme conflict with when I was in the Me Too veteran. And you know, this, like the energies, you still feel them around. And you kind of felt the heaviness because they have the sun of Algol. Okay, so those kind of people that something new can begin. Okay, it doesn't mean that if you have Sun on Algol, you're offender. Not at all. They are also not offender. There's around character, but not just offenders. Like there's around character. Hopefully they're not offender by now, but you know this is in the hands of Mother Algol, not mine. And that is that is the type of people. If you have a placement in there, and that was like your solar return. So this new moon is going to accentuate on that. It's very likely that you will have fated experiences related to that, to healing from non-dual experiences that you've had, to advocate, and I'm taking the good vibrations of that. Of course, some people can have a crisis related to this. They can absolutely have a crisis related to this. Like if I had to do return to sender, and if this person that I had conflict with was going to certain places to do something to me, okay, they can have a really harsh experience unless maybe they repent or something like that. I don't know, okay? I'm not accusing people that I don't know. It can be nothing, but if somebody did that, then they can have the experience of a return to sender, or experiences where they're like, okay, now you must advocate for people who go through non-dual experiences because this is you. Now, if you don't want to get the treatment that you try to get me to get, then oh dear, repent. Okay, repent. But this is not something that I would do. I never do specificity when I do return to sender, so I don't know who sent what. It's in the hands of the gods, and they will know what to do with that. And I'm always supportive that the person will have a chance to repent and to change, because The whole issue of crisis is that we will change our lives in a way that is better for us. Um, so we can feel the heaviness. Plus, Mercury sextile Saturn on the 6th degree. It's still there. It's still going to be there during the new moon. It has been there for a couple of days. The 6th degree of Taurus, I'd say the 6th degree of the fixed sign altogether, albeit the sextile to Saturn, which can create clarity that will bring longevity. Okay, it can create clarity that will bring longevity, or there is a longevity to the clarity and to the insights that are created here. Think about what you have been handling. Okay, things that came back. When was Mercury last in Taurus? I don't know, but there's a whole episode that I will need to dedicate to this 6th degree. I don't know what it means. I know it's the first phase of Taurus, so it's supposed to be Venus, Venus, Mercury, Venus, depending on what order of phases you do. Um, I know that I have had tremendous heaviness and whatnot, but it can be a personal experience, so I don't know how it relates to you. And you can let me know in the comments. But it does stretch the time a bit more. Okay. A funny story about it, I was supposed to receive a Mercury talisman. It arrived on a Mercury day, and it had to do with the opening doors, so the Sphere and Sundry one. And I didn't believe it's already arrived because I just ordered it and it's coming from the States, and I did just standard UPS delivery. So the messenger was basically, the delivery person was basically knocking on the door. It was not unlocked, just unlocked, it was open, and I was preparing for bath, and I didn't know who it is, and I didn't think, I didn't believe it could be like already the talisman. So I didn't open the door, and they called me 3 times, and I didn't know which number. So I was like, they will send an SMS. Then I remember that I don't receive them. And only a day later, it was a Jupiter day, that I returned the call, and it was like, that's the UPS. You have something from a Sphere and Sundry. I'm like, okay, okay, okay. Like the guy's great. He was doing everything fine. I was just thinking it was somebody else. I didn't believe it's already there. So I'm supposed to receive that on a Sunday. Probably Mercury hour, but who knows. And why am I saying that? It's not just the story of the talisman, but it's also I ordered it when the moon was applying to this Mercury, and it was still in 6 degrees. Again, Mercury was retrograde, I think, in 6 degrees. Now Mercury is direct in 6 degrees, um, and that there was supposed to be like a remediation, and this Mercury 6 degrees is stretching for ages. There's something about this degree. I don't know why. I don't have anything particular on the 6th degree. Okay, I would expect to feel it on the 5th degree when I have Venus in the 4th degree, or on later degrees where I have the Sun in 15 degrees. But I don't have anything in particular in 6 degrees. Oh, it's my notes, but no, my notes are on Gemini and Sagittarius. I don't know. It's like maybe making an inconjunct to my Ketu, but I don't know. So that was this tremendous heaviness that there is, and it is still during this new moon. So this new moon gives us a stamp of at least 6 months to a year, okay, because it will be a year before the new moon in Taurus again, that touches on the eclipse of November, that is mitigated with the new moon. There is a T-square in the sky involving the nodes. And I'm like, how can you say we're done with eclipses? This is not the first lunation after an eclipse by any in energetic terms, for any second purposes. And on that is the Minima Algol. And the Minima is something that you should pay attention to when we do magic, when we do when we call to Algol, perhaps. I don't know. I was, it's something I say. I also say it clearly. I was calling on Algol earlier this morning to protect the voices of me, and a friend of mine spoke around what happened, human trafficking that happened in academia. So I was doing some certain activism, and I publicly called Algol, and I hope she was not on the Minima, but who knows? I do follow the Christopher Warnock approach that we are dealing with angelic beings all in all, so it's not rigorous to the point of you can't make any mistakes. That being said, if you are making an Algol talismans, I would look at the minima. Okay, I would make sure that Algol is in the benevolent phase, because I do want to get the best of it. Did I do it on my Twitter note? No. But this is like you can do it. You can check. You have the site. You have everything. I always share the chart, and you always have the sovereignty, and of course, no money changes hands. So you always have the sovereignty to do that. It's dedicated to people who do astrology. Okay, so yeah, I can ask for blessings, but and if I'm not mistaken, the benefic phase is after the eclipse. We have this rise, okay, this rise of Algol, and this is the benevolent influence that we want. We want to get Algol after the eclipse, so before the next eclipse. Um, I think that the person who most specifically details how to do that is Gracia Tasio, and she has a seminar on magic. Okay, I haven't taken it yet. I desire to take it. She has a webinar on magic. I think it is 4 or 5 hours long. She does Babylonian astrology, so she works with the sidereal zodiac. But again, Algol is both sidereally and tropically fixed star of Taurus. So you're not supposed to have too many problems with that, and and you can follow Krasi's advice for if you want to do talismans that are made of crystals. I don't know if she teaches the Algol one because it does take more precision. It's not a beginner talisman. It's not a Venus talisman or a Jupiter talisman. But she is the person that I've seen the most detailed when it comes to describing the craft regarding the creation of a particular Algol talisman. Okay, and mentions the minima. Okay, I haven't seen anybody mentioning the minima, but Orphic astrology here, who also Orphic astrology, who also checks the minima. Back to our topic of the day. It's important to know that some things will start for you in this new moon, and some of them will be fated. If it's not in the books, there's something that I always say, and you could probably be tired of hearing it if you're watching my videos constantly. If it's not in the books, don't write it in the books. Okay? It's not. Is Venus and Mars on eclipses a good time to start marital relationships, sexual relationships? No. Are you supposed to go off without sex for the next like 2 years? Who am I to say? But take into account, if it is not in the books, don't write it in the books. And I'm speaking as a person for whom it is in the books, okay? Like I've spoke about it in the eclipse point, the ruler of my fifth, the ruler of my seventh, my Venus, were all kind of intermeshed into this eclipse series, and Mars will be retrograding in Cancer also in 2024 and 2025, and I thank H.J. Anderson for predicting that. So saving me hard work, and I'm very grateful. And so I'm a person for whom it is in the book. Probably something is going to happen with a relationship or a significant partnership. Probably something is going to happen also with housing, because the ruler of the 7th is the ruler of the 4th for me. Probably something is going to happen with something to do with leisure, romance, children. And that is all Venus, Mars, and on my like Moon, Mercury, and Venus. Yeah, like for me it's in the books. But other than that, if it's not in the books, don't write it in the books. The people for whom it is in the books, you're probably born within eclipses. You've probably seen this happen already. It probably does signify something to do, like me, in your whether relationship or career or housing or whatever it is for you. You probably have those points already being activated vigorously in this eclipse cycle. And so what you need to tend to is more remediation, magic, um, compassion, a philosophy that fits kind of an amor fati philosophy. Um, there is, I've seen both Kyra Reiberg and Maren Altman, which I know is considered kind of a person that brings a lot of contradicting reactions. Here she says she was born, I think she was born on an eclipse, and her motto is Amor Fati. Okay, she's like love your fate, because the role fate plays in the chart of people who are born on an eclipse or within eclipse is significantly more tremendous than the role of fate that of people who are born a bit away from those fated events. There can be other fated events that can trigger this, but it's not for nothing that when Christopher Warnock, when Chris Brennan wrote his book about astrology, fate and fortune, again, Hellenistic astrology, it's his first book. It's not for nothing that the discussion about fate and fortune has been so prevalent, and the lots of, for example, fortune and versus spirit seem to begin to capture this experience of fortune. Something happens, spirit. There is a potential for you to respond in a certain way. You're packed up with stuff that you can use in your favor to respond to the situations that happen to you in your life, and that too is having certain times of where it's triggered and where it's not. Okay, when there's a peak point in the zodiac releasing from the Lord of Fortune, something will happen. Okay, something will manifest in your life. Whereas a peak point from the Light of Spirit, you have more power to respond to things. Okay, so it's not necessarily that you'll do something, but with the fortune, something's probably going to happen, good or bad. Okay, it's just a peak point, um, it's peak period, and so on and so forth. So that's for people who work with zodiac releases. Very, very basic. I'm not a profound expert on zodiac releasing. There are people who are way more experienced in that than me. And Kyra Reiberg is a consulting astrologer that is one name, and you can watch the episode I have with her in Spirit of Matter interviews. Um, mm, mm, mm. So another reference for working with Algol magically, if you're not into preparing a talisman, which I don't think you have an election for anyway, because you have a new moon, and this new moon is aspecting, Mars and Pluto. I don't know. I don't know. Like, you would want the ascendant on the new moon, because for Algol you do want the ascendant with the moon, but then you have the sun, so I don't know how it's dealt with. But another person who makes Algol talismans that I think are still available for purchase is Christopher Warnock. And he recently had a video, an interview with Miss Tai by a channel of Miss Tai, which I find fascinating. One of the things he mentioned was about Western astrologers or modern astrologers thinking you need to work with the sidereal zodiac because astrology works through electromagnetics, and that's how it works. And that was something I was kind of taking into account, because I talk a lot about science, and I also talk a lot about the relation between gravity and like the moon is the gravity of the liquid. So we can have various gravitational connections between the planets that can also have a spirit and matter effect to them. So for me, it's not by trying to be reductionist, but more holistic. Okay, but then what Warnock said, which is also very important to remember, is that we use tropical zodiac that is remote from the sidereal zodiac, and it works, even traditionally. Okay, so it works. So that was something that I found fascinating. So Christopher Warnock is the founder of astrological talismans for larger audiences, and the type of talismans he makes are imbued with metal. Okay, so see, he does that with the tropical zodiac. He's the founder of doing that in the tropical zodiac. There is Krasiatas who's doing that in the sidereal zodiac. I don't know, like, don't ask me which came first, but both of these people are very much founders in their field. to our audience watches YouTube astrology. Okay? Probably there are many people we haven't heard of, as in any field. Um, but that is something to remember. And when you talk about the type of talismans that are like a body cream or in this or in that, so that is thanks to Caitlin Kopak, who watched, I don't know what her entire story is, but she was seeing people doing talismans that are like a body organ. If you do a crystal, you're supposed to wear it all the time, and so on and so. And she was like, "What if I made a talisman but of a particular occasion?" And her spouse says it's not going to work, and then she made it work. And now, in a couple of days, she's going to launch her series called Opus. So you might want to check out for that. So this is a series of these. I don't know exactly what series, what's going to be in this opus, but this is for the people who are interested in working with talismans and not necessarily wearing them like another organ in the body, or having this metal portal, the way Chris Warnock uses it, but they just want to have a lotion that's imbued with the energy of the star, which is very potent. Um, I have tried the Venus body butter from Helwas Astro, which is doing something very similar to what Caitlin is doing. She's just doing that in Europe, and so the shipping was more affordable, and that is very potent. Okay, that is indeed quite tremendous. And I'm used to working with essential oils and all that, but yes, astrological magic does have an extra dimension to that, um, that like you can't ignore that there's an energy there. So I like it. I like to put stars on the body. Um, you might like a necklace, or you might like a metal pendant. You might want to, oh fuck it, I'll just read Shirley's Twitter notes whenever she does these talismanic elections, and I'm like, well, that's a very dangerous option to go for. It's true that no money changes hands, but I'm extremely experimental myself. I literally have Uranus, whole sign speaking, in the 10th house in Sag, okay, 6 degrees away from my Keto. So there is a meat heaven there too, further up the road in the Sag, but like, like, if you're looking for something that is the tried and true, then don't go for a person with Uranus in their 10th house. I'm known for being revolutionary. That means very experimental. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the Venus wisdom on a Venus day. I hope I can still, I think I cannot, probably already the Mars thingy. No, I still have time. Okay, I still have time. So I'm going to, well, I'm going to finish with a bit of a blessing. So really thankful for Venus, for working with Venus, and I've used the energy of Venus in Taurus, but in general, Venus for the receptivity, as well as being assertive and asserting my boundaries. Like Venus can do that too. Um, um, and very, very grateful for Algol, for her protection of the voice, for her genuinely creating this confidence in the body, um, and simply eliminating, like eclipsing the inconveniences that women meet in the way in social, like in social circles, and that is something I'm very thankful for, and for standing by me for when I speak up, when I advocate for my colleagues who speak up about atrocities um, related to sexual boundary violation or to psychological abuse or psychic attacks or healing from those. And of course, I'm very thankful to the Lord of the Hour, that is Jupiter, that brings abundance and fresh fruits and hope and optimism. And in Taurus, bringing this central optimism that kind of keeps this abundance in, and magnifies material abundance, albeit the circumstances. And that is something I'm very, very honoring and happy to share this video with you on the Venus day, Jupiter hour, discussing Algol minima. So, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in next episode or next Friday.